What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Perfectly Blended Podcast. And today we have another amazing interview. And you know when that's coming up?
Right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended Podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and His ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's show. I'm one of your hosts, Josh. I'm here with the always there's the eyebrows. Miss Gorgeous Kristy.
Hello.
How you doing, babe?
I'm doing wonderful.
Did you remember that I was going to ask you what's on your mind?
No.
No. We're trying to go for 100% every episode that you'll never remember. Do you have anything on your mind? You're thinking really hard right now.
I am. I'm thinking really hard.
Do you have anything?
I do have something.
Oh, here we go. Oh, got somber real quick.
Yeah.
Is it sad?
Because my oldest son is going to be moving out soon. He's getting a place of his own.
Probably this week.
With a friend.
Probably this week. Well, this week, we say this week, it's, what is it? It's July 25th right now. So when this is but yeah. And you're sad about it?
I am sad about it.
No. Get him out. Get them all out.
Don't say that.
So today's episode, this is really exciting. Now I want to introduce who this is that's coming on right now. This interview is fun. It's going to be amazing. If you're listening or watching, you're able to do it. It's going to be so much fun. It's probably one you're going to want to go back and rewatch or listen to.
It's interactive.
It's super interactive, which we think is super fun because we're interactive.
We are interactive.
Okay. So
if you don't watch our podcast, you're missing out on all the facial expressions.
Yeah, you're missing it. Right. You're missing all of it. So we want to introduce to you in just one second, Dr. Katie Nall. Now, she is a 2-time TEDx speaker. She is a keynote speaker. She's a trainer and a coach, and she has a very interesting specialty, which is we're going to dive in during this interview. Mm-hmm. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready. All right, without further ado, let's bring on Dr. Katie. All right, everybody, we want to welcome to the show Katie. Dr. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Josh and Kristy. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we are so excited for this.
I'm most excited.
She's probably a little less excited than me, but probably mostly excited. Yeah, I would say.
Well, I'm less excited now, but I'm most excited because of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So, with the introduction, I kind of let everybody know a little bit about, a few of your accolades, some things that you got going on. I've kind of built you up a little bit, but let our listeners and viewers know a little bit about who you are.
Well, Josh and Kristy, like you, I come from a blended family. In fact, I was probably in a blender my entire life.
Yeah.
I come from a very large family. I have 7 half-siblings and 7 parents.
Wow. Yeah.
My mother married and divorced 4 times. I met my father when I was 14 for the first time, and then he died when I was in my 20s. So I didn't have a very long time to get to know him, but I did get to know a lot of other people. That was great. I was raised with a half sister and half brother. I consider them, my close siblings. And then, interestingly enough, after each one of my parents died, we found papers that each one of them had given a different child up for adoption.
Wow.
So, and we found one of them found us, and we welcomed him into the family. Although, we had this great opportunity. We're like, oh, we could tell him anything about our lives, right? Because we didn't know.
Yeah.
And then the other person we reached out to, and he was like, I'm good, thanks. So we've had that experience from both sides. So
wow.
So this summer, next month, in just a couple of weeks, I'll be celebrating my 49th wedding anniversary. It was, and that's with my first husband. It's a mistake, and we just haven't been able to figure out our way out of it.
We won't tell him you said that.
Yeah. No, he's the one who says, no, it's not. We have 3 grown children who all still speak to us, which is like awesome. And they married amazing people. We told everybody there's no takebacks. And they've gifted us with 5 adorable granddaughters. So that's a lot about
Love
me.
it. I love it. Well, where about in the country do you live?
I'm in Florida. We've been here about 42 years. So
I'm so jealous.
Love it. Yeah, the South calls to us. We live in Michigan, so the South definitely calls to us.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's so warm
I
and
think
beautiful.
we're cooler now than you guys are. I've been checking with my sister in Oklahoma, and she's got like 107, 109 degree temperatures, and we're in our 80s. So,
But you guys don't get snow.
we do not get snow. We do get snowbirds, which is what
this is true.
When you guys come to visit us.
Yeah.
That's so true. So Kristy, growing up, she had a dad that was married 5 times. So you and her are kind of kindred spirits in that.
Yeah.
She understands, how that makes an impact.
And my mom's
and
been
affects.
married three times.
Yeah, and your mom's been married, and her mom's been married 3 times.
Yep.
So we definitely understand that. We don't understand the way that the way that blended families really make an impact on family, and it sounds like, which is amazing, which is the whole reason why we even started doing what we do, is we don't want to keep repeating that generationally. And so to hear that you're going to celebrate 49 years of marriage is just absolutely incredible, which means you learned from what happened and didn't want to repeat what you experienced, and that's just an incredible thing.
Yeah, I figured my dad was married 5 times. My mom was married 3 times. I've been married 2 times, so I'm doing better.
You got the subtraction thing going.
Moving in the right direction.
So now our kids just need to be married 1 time, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a PhD, right? So why don't you share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about how that came about, what it's for, and then how it led into where you're at now.
Well, Josh and Kristy, when I was 18 years old, I was looking around and my life was kind of, turbulent.
Yeah.
But I had heard someplace that if you make a list of 5 things you want to do, you're going to be in much better shape of being actually accomplish them. So I made my list, and number 1 on my list was earn a PhD. I had no idea what a PhD was. I just heard that it was the highest level of education you could get. And that when I looked around, it seemed like the people who had different lifestyles than I did had a lot more education than my family did. So I thought, well, if I get the education, that should change my lifestyle. So that was number 1. Number 2 was I was going to buy a car and it was going to be paid for. And that was really important because I lived on layaway back then because we didn't have credit cards. That was 100 years ago. And then number 3 was I was going to buy a house, which made sense because we moved almost every 6 months. And I attended 12 different schools in 5 different states growing up. So buying a house and having some kind of stability was important to me. Yeah. I can't remember what number 4 was, but number 5 was I was then at age 25 going to accomplish all of these goals. And the 5th goal was I was going to begin dating. Well, let me tell you what actually happened. By the time I was 25, I did not have my PhD, but I was finishing up my master's degree in statistics. And I was like, okay, I'm on my way. I did have a car that was bought and paid for. It was a 1973 TR6.
Yeah.
I didn't have a house, but I was a manager for an apartment complex. So I kind of gave myself partial credit on that. Still can't remember what number 4 was, but number 5, yeah, I had been married for 5 years and was pregnant with my first. You didn't hear me mention marriage or children in any of that, right? Turns out my husband had a plan, and his was bigger than mine. Yeah. So what I learned from it is that it's important to have big goals. I remembered my goal as I was in my mid-50s. My youngest of 3 children was over 25. And I remembered I always wanted a PhD. I was working at a college at the time where PhDs are honored and really accepted. People will go out of the way to help you get a PhD. So I went to my supervisor, I went to my husband, I went to my kids. I'm like, what would you guys think if I went back to school as a mature student in my mid-50s to get my PhD? And they're all like, go ahead, go for it. P.S. Don't bother me while you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I was working full-time as a campus director at a local college, overseeing a campus, and working full-time. It took me 4 years. at night and weekends and a short sabbatical to finish my PhD in mathematics education.
Wow.
While I was doing my research, I wanted to help all the students who were coming in and had one class left to finish. And it was always math. My response was, great idea. You saved the best for last.
Yeah.
That is not how they felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them couldn't even say what the one class was that they had left to do. So I would get on the computer and look up, and I was like, look, you only have one class left, and it's math. Let's get you registered. They would start shaking. They'd get the sweat off their palms. I could watch the color in their face change. And I was like, what is going on? All I did was say math. I had to try to find out why I could help these students overcome their fear and anxiety in math. Well, I was doing my dissertation, so I focused on how do you help students overcome fear and anxiety about math and test taking. And do you know what I found, Josh and Kristy? Nothing. There was like nothing out there. Nothing. But what I did find is that they should change instructors. They should study harder. They should try this technique. Nothing was in there about how to help them to even register for a class that they were so fearful for. They were having physiological reactions. I recognize my question as a word problem. And as you know, in math word problems, what you do is you just pull out what you need from the problem. And I restated and said, how do you help overcome fear and anxiety? That was in 2010, and I ran into Nick Ortner's 10-day summit. I watched all 10 days. I bought the book. I bought the DVD. For all 10 days, they talked about how to overcome fear and anxiety about finances, about relationships, about addictions. Nobody mentioned math. Nobody mentioned tests. I was like, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. But I have a room full of desperate students. And we all know that desperate clients are the best, right?
Absolutely.
They will try anything.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they tried it. So I'd bring them into my office one by one. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but just kind of let's go with it. I didn't have any training other than the book and the DVD. After a few weeks, they started coming back. And they said, I'm not really sure or not, but I think I'm passing my math class. I had no idea who was more surprised, them or me, because I didn't know if it was going to work. It started working, and I thought, I need to get training because I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I went back and I got training in level 1, which means that you can do this on yourself, family, and friends. Level 2, which enabled me to become certified, but I really wanted to train others because I could see the power of this. So I went on to level 3 and became an advanced certified. I did trauma because I had so many of my students were triggering into trauma. The reason why they couldn't do math is because their little brother died on them when they were 7. I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared for that. I did quantum, which is past lives. That's a whole nother subject. I did picture tapping for people who can't deal with their emotions. And I went on to become a supervisor, a mentor, and now I'm finally a master trainer. Now, remember what I said? It took me 4 years working full-time to earn my PhD. It took me 8 years working full-time to become a master trainer in emotional freedom technique.
Wow.
Would you like to see how it works?
Yeah, please. Let's do it.
Okay, so I understand Kristy has been voluntold that she's going to be doing this.
Yes,
That's
he
right.
offered me up as a sacrifice. I want everybody to know. And if you guys want to send me chocolate or Coke Zero Vanilla later, to make me feel better, that's fine.
Well, what I like the most about this, Kristy, is that at the end of it, people feel better. And now, full confession, I went to therapy once a week for 4 years. My poor therapist. He was so good. He really helped me kind of cross over a lot of things. However, he was also a businessman. And at the end of 60 minutes, he'd say, well, Katie, we're finished now. I would be sitting over there in a complete blubbering mess because I'd had drenched up all this stuff and it was like I couldn't deal with it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be great. And I'd have to kind of pull myself together, stumble my way out the door, get into my car and try to regroup before I went back to work, right? That doesn't happen with tapping. With tapping, you kind of come back to a place of peace. The majority of my clients end the 1 hour session by saying, wow, I feel lighter. Now, what's interesting is nobody comes in saying, I feel very heavy today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had so many emotions that they were holding in that created the heaviness. So, Kristy, I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions before we begin.
All right.
So, tell me something small that has caused you waffles or is causing you waffles in the last 24 to 48 hours. Now, waffles are worries, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, or stress.
So I am going to be having surgery on August 5th, and I have a fear of needles. So it's really the IV, but fear of needles too. Because I was supposed to get a shot in my back today because I have a bad back, an epidural shot, and I canceled it. I called and canceled.
Okay, a fear of needles.
Yeah.
And so, well, let's talk about it. What you'll find out with tapping is we really focus in. So you mentioned you were supposed to get a shot today in your back, and you also mentioned IV coming up on August 5th. Which one has a stronger intensity?
The one in my back.
Okay, so if you think about that you were supposed to get a shot in your back, what emotion is coming up when you think about it?
Probably anxiety. Like I start, like my, the chest, my heart starts racing a little bit, and I start getting like a little nervous, sweaty.
Okay, so you mentioned anxiety and nervous. Which one's stronger?
Probably anxious, probably anxiety.
Anxiety. Okay. Now, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, when you think about getting a shot in your back, that feeling of anxiety, do you feel it in your body?
Two places actually, my chest, because my chest starts feeling like it's difficult for me to breathe. And then I get really sweaty. Like my palms get really, really sweaty.
Okay. So your chest and your palms. That's great. From 0 to 10, where 0 is like, it's no big deal. They know what they're doing. And 10 is the most anxiety you've ever felt in your life. When you think about that shot in your back, what number comes up?
In my back? Probably a 6.
Okay, great. And is this a true statement? Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Right here, right now, I feel safe. Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to ask you to repeat. First of all, I'm going to show you where we're going to tap on our body. And then after that, I'm going to add some words. When I ask you to add words, if I ask you to repeat a word, Kristy, that you go, no, that's not really true. For instance, you told me your chest and your palms. And if I said in your heart and your hands, that's not what you said. Will you repeat it in words that are true for you?
I will do my best.
Oh, that's all I ask.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to start off and tap on the locations of your body that we'll tap on that we're going to add words to in just a minute. Is that all right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So you can use either your right hand or your left hand. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And on the area between your wrist and your little finger, there's a fatty part of your palm. So between your wrist and your little finger, use your other fingers of your hand and tap right along. Now, Josh, yeah, you're doing it great. And Josh, I'm going to ask you to pull along too.
Me too?
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, Kristy, what'd you say? What'd you say, Kristy? I didn't catch that.
I said I have nails, so.
Oh, good. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Nails are fine. Okay, and when we get to the part where we're going to add words, I'm going to ask you to repeat a sentence. I'll create a sentence, and we'll do that 3 times there, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Next spot is on the top of your head, on the crown of your head, and you can use your right hand, your left hand, both hands. It doesn't matter, whatever's most comfortable. Okay. And I'm going to go in for a close-up for the next one, so fair warning. It's going to be above your nose on the edge of your eyebrow. So right there, you'll take 2 fingers and right on the edge of your eyebrow.
At the same time?
No, you'll switch. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then the next spot is on your temple, and you can use your right side, your left side, doesn't matter. And it's between the edge of your eye and your hairline. So you'll go right there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next spot is where I keep all my bags for a quick getaway, and that's under your eye.
You and me both.
And then we go under our nose, above our lip.
Okay.
And then under our lip, above our chin. And then we're going to cross our wrist and go right on our collarbone with both hands. And then the last spot is about 4 inches under our arm on our ribs. So we go about there and give it a good hearty slap.
Yeah.
And then when we're finished, we're going to put our hands on our shoulders and we're going to rub our hands down to our elbows and breathe out like a cartoon character. So it looks like this. You
I
guys
like
are
that.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to add words. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start again on the side of our hand between our wrist and our little finger, and I'll explain the spots again just in case somebody's listening and can't see.
Okay.
Okay, so Kristy and Josh, you can repeat too. Say, even though
Even though
I remember that shot I was supposed to get in my back today,
I remember that shot I was supposed to get in my back today.
and thinking about it now,
And thinking about it now,
oh, I feel anxiety in my chest and my palms.
I feel anxiety in my chest and my palms.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
And then we're going to repeat that. Even though
Even though
I have this anxiety in my chest and my palms,
I have this anxiety in my chest and my palms,
thinking about that shot I was supposed to get in my back today.
thinking about that shot I was supposed to get in my back today.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Last time, even though
Even though
my chest and my palms are full of anxiety,
my chest and my palms are full of anxiety,
just remembering that shot I was supposed to get in my back today.
just remembering that shot I was supposed to get in my back today.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
And then tap on the top of your head. Again, you can use your right hand, left hand, both hands. And you're going to say that anxiety in my chest and my palms.
Anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And then above your nose on the edge of your eyebrow, 2 fingers.
Okay.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And then on the side of the eye, between the edge of your eye and your hairline.
Okay.
And you can breathe while we're doing this. That anxiety in my chest and my palm.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And then under your eye.
Under my eye.
That anxiety in my chest and my palm.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And then under the nose. Oh, that anxiety in my chest and my palms.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
Under your lip. That anxiety in my chest and my palm.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And cross your wrists on your collarbone. Oh, that anxiety in my chest and my palm.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And about 4 inches below on your ribs. That anxiety in my chest and my palm.
That anxiety in my chest and my palms.
And then your hands on your shoulders, and we're going to blow it out. So, Kristy,
Yeah.
when you think about the shot you were supposed to get in your back today, from 0 to 10, the anxiety in your chest and your palms, where is it now?
It's not here. Yeah. Feels better.
You feel all right?
Yeah. I'm not red anymore. If you notice, my cheeks get red.
Yeah.
And my,
When you get nervous
yeah.
and anxious.
Yeah. They might start getting red now because we're talking about me getting red. Yeah, they're getting red now. But that's because we're talking about me getting red.
Tapping is such an amazing device. It is one of the methods that I use to show people how to gain emotional wealth and to stop living in emotional debt,
Yeah.
which I lived in for years. I would come home from work after I'd spent all of my energy at work, and people would make demands on me like, I want to eat, or can you give me a hug, or
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
crazy demands. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm emotionally spent. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm finished. And so tapping is a great way to maintain your emotional wealth.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love
So
that.
give us a little bit, just quickly, like, why do these techniques, what is it about the techniques that really drive this to work?
Well, Josh, they have done clinical studies for the last 40 years all over the world, and tapping is way more popular in other countries than it is here, primarily because other countries have universal health care and they are looking to cure people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is one way to help people with anxiety, with waffles, to help them
Yeah.
with waffles, right?
Yeah.
So it helps them dissolve their waffles. What they have shown is clinical studies have shown Dr. Hans Selye, Selye, was the first one to really define something called stress. And it was based on increase in cortisone, adrenal levels, and other hormonal levels. They have found that tapping on these points reduces those levels so that you no longer feel the stress. It's all based on traditional Chinese medicine's meridian system. It
Yeah.
was developed by Stanford educated engineer Gary Craig when he was watching other psychologists and psychiatrists who'd been working with patients for years with no improvement. And they were searching out solutions, and they started looking at traditional Chinese medicine. They started looking at meridians, and they said, maybe this will work. The story goes that psychiatrist Dr. Callahan had a long-term patient called Mary who was deathly afraid of water. He studied traditional Chinese medicine and asked her, when you think about your fear of water, where do you feel it in your body? And she said, oh, just thinking about water, I feel it in my stomach. Well, he had done his research and understood that when you have issues in your stomach, the spot right under your eye is tied to this what's called the stomach meridian.
Mm-hmm.
He asked her to tap right there, and depending on which story you want to believe, supposedly she picked up a glass of water, drank the whole thing down, and said, I'm cured, left the office. He shook his head and said, what just happened?
Yeah.
And developed a whole system for psychologists and psychiatrists on, if you have this fear and it's in this part of the body, these are the kinds of things you do. Called it thought field therapy. However, Gary Craig, who's an engineer, saw these meridians as electrical circuits. And he said, you know what? If you just tap on these 8 spots in your body, that's going to hit 96 to 98% of the meridians. And whatever energy blockage you have in your body, it's going to release it, because they feel like the word emotion is energy in motion. Now, if either one of you think about the last time you felt love or fun or happiness, I mean, that was a great feeling, but you may not be feeling it right now because that feeling is an energy in motion and it's gone.
Yeah.
But there are times where we hold on to anger or fear or anxiety or waffles, and we hold on to them because they serve a purpose. Now, what is that purpose? It's survival.
Sure.
And that survival is keeping us alive. Now, why would we be fearful if we walk into a room and in the corner there's an orange trash can? I mean, we may not even notice the orange trash can, but all of a sudden we walk into a room and we're like nervous, like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. We may not remember that when we were 9 months old, something really bad happened in a room that we were in that had an orange trash can in it.
Wow.
But our amygdala, the lizard brain in the back of our brain,
Yeah.
remembers and wants to keep us safe. And so what the tapping does is it says, and this is Katie Nall's version. It says to the amygdala, When I was younger, I understood that I had to be careful when I was in a room with an orange trash can. But now I've developed a prefrontal cortex that wasn't there when I was in the room with the orange trash can. And because of my prefrontal cortex, I know ways of keeping myself safe. And so tapping relieves the waffles that your amygdala is feeling and allows the prefrontal cortex to go into motion.
Wow.
I love that.
That's, amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I like what she said about other countries actually wanting to make people well.
Yeah. Unlike our country, unfortunately, because of the cost. Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. You want to ask the next question?
Yeah. So with your experience, what do you think could be the most helpful with marriages, especially in blended families?
So what do I think would be the most helpful? I think true conversations.
Yeah.
And those can be the most difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the true conversations have to start with ourselves, right? About how we feel. Emotions drive the train. We may think that we're thinking logically, like, okay, I want to get this house, and these are the qualifications I have on this house, and this is exactly what I want. I'm going to tell the realtor this is exactly what I want. And then the realtor is going to show me something that my amygdala says, oh, you're safe here. This is wonderful. And it may be nothing like what I told the realtor that I wanted, because emotions drive the train. So taking charge of our own emotions by maybe tapping on ourselves. Part of the training that we do in level 1 is we create something called a personal peace journal. They said in the class that I was in the class that I teach, I say, write down a list of 100 things that cause you waffles. And I was like, only 100? Why, I could write 1,000.
Yeah.
And I started writing them down. I got to 37 and I was like, Well, that lady in the store the other day was rude to me.
Yeah.
What I forgot to do is to create all the aspects. For instance, the car accident I was in, I just wrote car accident. But I didn't write down that I was worried if my husband was going to wake up from the coma he went into, that I was worried about what the cost of the car is, that I felt like the person who hit us was uninsured, that I was worried that somebody else was going to hit us because we stopped in the middle of the intersection. I didn't write down every one of those aspects that had to do when I wrote car accident. And so you write down every one of those. When you talk about a blended family, what are your concerns personally? And work on those individually, so that then when you talk to another person of the blended family, whether it's your own, prior family or a new family member, that you have your emotions under control. And that's what I love teaching people and showing people how they can control and manage their own personal emotions so they make better decisions, so they can be more helpful, so they can be more loving.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because to our viewers and our listeners that are listening, if you listen to last week's podcast, we talked about how to tell your spouse what you need. And the point number 1 was talk with yourself first. And a doctor just confirmed that we are correct.
Yeah.
I want to point that out.
It's funny, though, because, a lot of clients that we help, and it's hard to steer them back because people feel very justified in their feelings.
Yeah.
They feel very justified in their emotions, and they feel very justified especially in blended families, because what you understand, it's like when we come together as a blended family and we're bringing our kids into a home with somebody else's kids, it is all feelings. There is such little logic involved in all of that. And so to be able to bring people down to a level of like, okay, I understand what you're saying, okay, but I need you to hear what I'm saying. And we got to get a hold of this train, as you refer to, which I love, about getting this emotional train to come back around and put it in its right place. Because emotions are healthy, which I know you would agree. They have the right place for them, but they should never be in the front, driving the thing around. So I love how you say these, we got to get a hold of that first if we expect to have results in totality, especially in family.
Yeah, and it's not just the emotion, Josh, but it's also the expectations. I know. I was very upset with my 9-year-old son when he was on a field trip because he was great on the 2-hour drive to the field trip. But on the way back, he was a disaster and disruptive. And I was a chaperone. I was embarrassed. I had all these feelings and everything. And somebody pointed out, were you tired? Was I tired on the field trip? I was like, I was exhausted. I'm like with all these 9-year-olds, it was horrible. And they said, well, imagine if you were 9 and you had been 2 hours in one direction, had an excursion and 2 hours back. How do you think they might behave? And I'm like, oh, doggone it. I hate that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is expectations. I know at one point, I love this one child psychologist, and he said, if you ask your children to do the dishes and they don't do the dishes, you can't be mad at them, because if you didn't have your children, you would still have dishes to do. So what you do is you do the dishes, but there will be some point at probably the near future where that same child that you ask for help is going to need something from you. And you can turn to them and say, I would love to help you, but I'm exhausted because I had to do the dishes. And I was like, oh, wow, that's brilliant.
Yes. That's awesome.
But thinking about the things that come under my purview that I would have to do myself, I actually use that in my own marriage. So when my husband doesn't do the things that I think he should be doing, I have to stop and think, well, if I was by myself, would I be doing this? Oh, doggone it. Yes, I would. So
Yeah.
I just do it.
I love it, and I love the intentionality you're speaking with, because it's such an important thing. So, we're Christians, and we believe in the hierarchy of the Bible when it comes to marriage, and we put God first, and then marriage, and then our children, and that still applies to blended families. So, when we're looking at our marriage, it's like, okay, how can I pay attention to her and take care of her the most, so we then can, pour that over into our children? But I can't take care of Kristy unless I'm being intentional with the way that I'm taking care of her, and I can't do that unless I back up and say, okay, I need to sit, like you're saying, I need to back up and think to myself, am I doing this the right way? Am I thinking of this the right way? Am I being intentional the right way?
Yeah. I think some of it is assumptions though too, especially in blended families, because like Josh and I, our youngest now is 18. So we have an 18, 20, 20. We have two 20-year-olds and a 25-year-old.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we are just now finding out that like the youngest is mine and one of the 20-year-olds is mine. So the 18-year-old, we talked about, we got married 10 years ago.
9 years ago.
9 years ago. And so he was, I don't even know. How old?
9.
9. He was 9. And we were talking about it, I don't know, like a few months ago. And he was like, I really didn't even understand what was happening that day. And it's like, we just have the assumption, like, yeah, we talked to them before we moved in together. He talked to his kids. I talked to my kids. But then once we moved in together, it kind of was just like
Business
full
as
steam
usual.
ahead, right? Like we got married, everything was being done together. And those, like how you were saying, breaking down, it was just car accident. Like we're moving in together. Great. But we didn't talk about we're always going to be together now. We're going to be getting married. What does this
your
mean?
New brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Like none of that was broken down with them, which we're just assuming they understood, what was going on. So I think it's a very, very good point for other families out there to talk and break those things down. Yeah. Because we go off of feeling so much. I mean, that's how we pick a wedding dress, right? We put a wedding dress on. We try them on. We get one on. We're like, this is it. Right. We feel it.
Yeah. It's true.
So
yeah. So if is this something that somebody could get connected to virtually?
Oh yeah, I've been using Zoom for 12 years.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Before COVID, like well before COVID, you were ahead of the game.
Definitely. I have clients in Spain and Canada and Mexico and in Indonesia.
Wow.
I had a mother watch my TEDx talk on eliminating math anxiety, and she lived in Switzerland and her son was attending boarding school in Belgium. And so she hired me to help him. And it started off with just, math and test anxiety, but it has spread.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I would think that would be the story normally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would think so. Okay, so as we wrap this up, let's tell everybody. We've talked so much about it. It's exciting. We can offer this, but where can they go find you? Where can we find you? Where can we get connected with you?
I'm on all social media as Katie Nall, PhD. So it's spelled KATIENALL, PhD. So that's on all social media. I have a lot of details about what I do on my website. My last name is Nall, Nall, and I'm a bit of a wordsmith and a punster. So I had to add the word edge, EDGE, and then CO for company. So my website is knowledgecompany.com. Yeah. And there you can find out information about the training that I offer, about one-on-one sessions that I offer both live and on Zoom, and also about the Qigong classes that I teach. Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Well, I just want to ask you before we close, do you have anything exciting coming up? Anything new or exciting coming up that you want to share?
I have so much exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah. All right.
We like hearing that.
Yeah.
We like hearing that.
It's funny, Josh and Kristy, because about a year ago, I was asked to retire from the college where I worked. And I was like, oh, this is great. All this stuff I've been doing on nights and weekends and on vacation days, I can do now full time. And so it's just exploding. So, so I do teach Qigong. And the reason why I teach Qigong is because I wanted to dance at all 5 of my granddaughters' weddings. The youngest one is 2, so that means I've got to stay healthy. I have to stay alive till 2050. I have to stay healthy, and I'm probably going to learn how to dance somewhere in between there. So, I'm always adding new classes. I teach level 1 tapping on Zoom. I just finished with the class last weekend, so people can learn how to tap on themselves, their family, and friends. I have a level 2 class that's going to be coming up. I also offer masterminds on growth and abundance, and I'm working on a project for veterans on helping them with suicide prevention, and it's focused on body, mind, and spirit. So the body will be Qigong, the mind will be the tapping, and then the spirit will be a spiritual component.
Wow. Any more TEDx events coming up?
It's really funny. I just finished my second TEDx in January, and TED did not post it. They would not tell us why, but we believe it was too controversial. My talk was entitled "Science is Not Always the Truth," and I talked about how all the new scientific discoveries were not readily accepted until they could be measured and named. And I just brought in, I guess, a few too many things that they didn't like.
Hey, sometimes that's okay.
It actually is okay. And they have the video, but I have the intellectual property on. I did 6 months of work on that talk.
Wow.
So I have that. Mm-hmm.
Well, they can't take that from you, so you get to spread that word and all that wisdom. So, well, Katie, we appreciate you being on here. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. And we want to make sure everybody knows that they can go out and they can follow you. We'll make sure to put everything in the show notes, all the links, so they can get a hold of you. Thank you so much.
Josh and Kristy, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing and for the outreach that you have to families who really need what you're sharing. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. What an amazing interview. We really pray and hope that you got some fun out of this, but not just fun. We pray that you got some use out of this.
I love acronyms. So seriously, Waffles is worry, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, and stress. Waffles. And it's like all of those things are negative, but Waffles is positive. So it's
unless you have diabetes, and then it's probably not positive.
It's still positive. You just can't have it.
Right. You can positively not have
sniff
it. Smell the positive waffles.
Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah. But we'll make sure to put everything down inside the show notes to let you know how you can get in contact with Dr. Katie and, go check her stuff out. She has a very interesting and awesome website. And so we'll make sure to leave that down on there.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.